everybody, it's Derek with Colorado Camper Van here again. This video we're going to talk about the three main vans of new vans, and that's going to be a Ram Promaster, a Ford Transit, and a Mercedes Sprinter. And we're talking a little bit about the vans themselves and the differences between them. Just people ask us a lot, like, which van should we get? And that's like the most general question you can ask. The main upfront differences is going to be the Promaster only comes in a gas motor. It did come in a diesel, but it no longer does. And it only comes in front wheel drive, so it cannot be converted to four wheel drive. It's front wheel drive only, and that's all it'll ever be. The Transit comes in gas and no longer comes in diesel in the US. And it comes in all wheel drive and rear wheel drive configuration. And the Sprinter is available now in gas and diesel. They're both turboed, the gas and diesel version. And they're discontinuing their four-wheel drive, and it will be an all-wheel drive option. So you have all-wheel drive, and front-wheel drive. I should say all-wheel drive, rear-wheel drive, all-wheel drive, rear-wheel drive, and front-wheel drive. So those are like the obvious big differences in them. We're going to go inside and talk a little bit more about just the sitting in them and the creature comforts and how they feel, just to kind of inform people what the differences are. So we're sitting inside of a new Promaster right now. The dashes are, they are what they are. They're all a little bit different or whatever. This Promaster has a really big windshield, which they all have a big windshield. You sit really up front in this vehicle, so it feels like you're driving a small vehicle. And because it's front wheel drive, it has a nice tight turning radius, which people really like. So between the turning radius and sitting way up front by the bumper, it makes it real convenient to drive in city areas or where congestion or traffic or parking or stuff like that. That's what we really hear is people enjoy about their Promasters, is that it's super easy to drive. Their wife drives it. Everybody loves it because it's just a compact little package, especially if you get the shorter wheelbase one. You sit up a little more upright in this one. I feel like the Promasters, you sit upright. The Sprinters, you sit upright. And the Transit, you sit more like you're sitting in a car with a dash that more feels like it's wrapped around you. So you have a little more of a car feel to that one. These, you feel like you're driving a van. You're sitting up tall, big steering wheel in front of you, big windshield looking down, and you feel like you're driving a van. The Promaster, being front wheel drive, has a straight axle in the rear, so it has really low ground clearance. The upside to that is the reason it has low ground clearance because it has a low step-in height. So that's all a bonus from it being front wheel drive. So front wheel drive gives you a nice low step-in height on the side door, but it gives you low clearance on the rear axle. So it's not good for forest roads, or you're not going to really go off-road and something like this. It's, gravel forest roads is about as far as you're going to take this back in the woods. Otherwise, it's just going to be on pavement for the most part. We'll talk about the all-wheel drive versions and the other ones when we step into one of those. Okay, so now we're in a Ford Transit. Little bit longer nose, so it feels like a little bit bigger vehicle. It's still pretty nimble in my opinion. This is the one I kind of like more than the rest of them driving it. I just enjoy driving the Transits. I like the EcoBoost motor. It makes a lot of power. Not to be a Ford pimp guy, but this one has a smaller touchscreen. It has a bigger touchscreen available. It has the lane assist and all those bells and whistles that are available. The Promaster might have that now too. Promasters are really hard to get. They're all really hard to get right now. But Promasters seem to be really difficult due to the Amazon vans. They're buying them all up. So we've been seeing very few Promasters come through. This is available in a high roof, low roof, and a mid roof. The Promaster is available in what they call a low roof and a high roof, which is the equivalent of a mid roof. The Ford Transit low roof is like the lowest of all the vans. That's a really short van. Great if it's like the only one you'll fit in a garage with a pop top. Again, this one's available in all-wheel drive or rear-wheel drive with the EcoBoost twin turbo V6 or with the just regular naturally aspirated V6. They both run really good. They both do just fine. In the mountains, the twin turbo one's probably a little more preferred. Ford seems to offer a little more bells and whistles than Promaster, but about the same as the Sprinter does. So the all-wheel drive version of the Transit has a mode button here, and that mode has like rain and snow. I don't remember what all the buttons are, but the most important one is mud and ruts. Mud and ruts really works good. It allows the traction control to act as lockers, and I've seen these things go up some pretty steep stuff, pretty gnarly rocky trails that no other van I've has been other than like the Econolines or the Chevys that are true four-wheel drive, go up, and these will walk up it pretty easy with the power and the torque made from the twin turbo V6, and then the mud and rut setting. I think it's called mud and rut setting. Just you can watch the traction control work on that thing and pull it up a big hill. So this is, of these three vans, this is the probably most capable all-wheel drive version van. Now we're going to go next. We're going to go sit in a Sprinter van, and that Sprinter van is available in four-wheel drive for a little bit longer, and then it's going to go to all-wheel drive. And I don't know anything really about the new all-wheel drive system, but I'll talk a little bit about the four-wheel drive system in that. Okay, now last we're sitting in a Sprinter. This is a 2022, so it's got the new style dash in it. You can tell it's a little more refined. Obviously, it's a Mercedes. You hope that it would be. Again, this one's available in four-wheel drive or rear-wheel drive, and soon to be all-wheel drive when they drop the four-wheel drive. So this four-wheel drive system's pretty capable. I've seen them go into limp mode on really steep hills. I don't know why they do that, but they always seem to. And then you get them leveled out again, and they seem to work fine. But it is a true four-wheel drive with a low range and a high range if you get the option. It also has an option where you can just do high range and all-wheel drive. So it can be a true four-wheel drive if you get it as a true four-wheel drive. Again, this one has a longer hood than all of them probably. You sit up a little higher than all the other vans. Like physically the van sits up taller, so it's a little bit higher step-in height than the Transit, and obviously a lot higher than the Promaster for stepping in that side door or getting in and out of the driver and passenger seat. You sit up pretty upright in this one. Steering wheel is pretty small, but you have big windshield. They all do, but you feel like you're driving a little bit bigger van to me. That's it. You can still get this van with all of the bells and whistles and the lane changing or lane keeping assist or whatever it's called. And they do have a really nice backup camera, where Ford and Promaster, as far as I know right now, have just a plain backup camera. These have like a 360 view backup camera that shows the entire van in every direction that you could possibly think of on the dash, which is pretty cool. Other than that, it has like a full, all their fancy plethora of phone controls and everything else is on the steering wheel. So you can really load these up with like tons and tons of bells and whistles. Pretty much everything you can get in a luxury car, you can pretty much get in these vans. So as far as clearance is concerned, you can, on a Sprinter chassis, you can lift it up and you can get like a 33-inch tire up under here fairly easily and reasonable. They make lift kits for it. On the Transit van, you can lift it 2 inches and you can get a 31, and you do a little mod, you can get a 32-inch tire in there. So this one's it's a bigger van overall. If it's four-wheel drive, it just sits higher, so it's easier to put a bigger tire on. It has more clearance. The Ford Transit sits pretty low to the ground. So this one, clearance-wise, if you're worried about dragging the back on stuff or whatever, you know, getting over rocks and trees or whatever, this one's going to give you a little more clearance and a little more robust four-wheel drive system for if you're really taking it off-road. The Transit is still going to be the all-wheel drive, so you don't have the low range and you're not going to have the clearance. And even if you do a 2-inch lift and get a biggest tire in there, you can. You're still not going to be to the height and the size of this Mercedes van. This one's available again in a turbo diesel or a gas, and I believe the gas is a turbo. I'm not 100% sure on that, but I think it's a V6 turbo motor that just came out this year. So you have both options on that. So we're in front of a Sprinter four-wheel drive. You can see it's got pretty good clearance and a pretty decent sized tire on it from the factory. I just figured I'd do this last shot out here so you can kind of see how big they are compared to the Ford Transit. The wheel well will be way down here. I won't have near as much clearance. As far as people ask about gas versus diesel, the diesel is a little harder to get parts for, costs a little more to do your monthly, or not monthly, but your maintenance, your routine maintenance on it. The gas one will be a little bit cheaper to maintain in the long run. The non-turbo versions are going to be even less, less things to go wrong, less maintenance. So they're going to be for longevity, to keep your dollar down. That's probably the way to go. If you like driving fast and you want the power in the mountains, then turbo is obviously going to get you what you need out of that. All three of them make great camper vans. None of them have like a major drawback. People will talk about the width in the cargo area on a Sprinter, on a Promaster van, because it's a little bit wider than the rest. But really and truthfully, depending on how the walls are built and the interior is built, you can get 6 foot, I believe 6'1" on the sleeping sideways on a Ford Transit without flare outs. And the Sprinter's right there. They're all pretty darn close. The Promaster does have a little straighter walls. They're still not perfectly straight, but they're straighter than all the other ones. So there's a little to be had for that, but not much. You don't gain a whole lot out of it. If you're doing a DIY, that can make your build a little simpler. But for when you're CNC cutting and scanning the vans, it just really doesn't make too much of a difference. So it really comes down to personal preference. I tell everybody, go drive every single van that you're thinking about. Drive it with the engine options, drive it, just get in it and drive it, have your wife drive it, whatever. Just whatever you can do to get in there and drive it before you buy it, and you'll be more happier with your purchase. But at the end, it's personal taste and it's how you're using your van.